from msdynamicsworld.com, and we're here for a session all about winning strategies for AP automation with Dynamics GP. Thanks for joining today. Our main presenter is Christina Pappas of MineralTree. And as we get started, please do know that we want to keep today's session interactive. We have a few poll questions for you just to learn a little bit more about who you are in the audience. And we will also be making time for questions at the end of the session. So be on the lookout for polls that will pop up, and also keep in mind the Q&A block where you can enter your questions at any time. We'll definitely hold on to those. If you don't see the Q&A, look for a question mark icon. It should be in the upper right, and that'll enable it for you. So without any further delay, Christina, I'm going to hand things off to you.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm excited to talk to you about this topic. We work with a lot of Microsoft Dynamics GP or Great Plains, whichever way you refer to it, users and partners. And just wanted to go through a session here about the experience managing accounts payable with GP alone and what that experience looks like when you combine AP automation on top of your GP platform. And just look at how some best-in-class companies are doing so and really getting some really great benefits out of it. So today we're going to cover what's missing from your ERP, and this is specifically calling out Microsoft Dynamics GP. So a lot of the processes we're talking about are going to be relatable to you. And then we're going to look at how these cutting-edge companies are using GP together with automation, look at the competitive advantages of automation. Just to give you an idea, sometimes people don't realize the advantages that actually are there versus the obvious ones. And then my colleague Sarah Shattery is going to walk us through a live demo using a GP instance fully integrated with MineralTree. So my name is Christina Pappas. I'm the Director of Marketing here at MineralTree, and Sarah Shattery, our account executive, is here at MineralTree, is also going to be speaking to you today. So Jason, can you please launch our first poll question for the audience? So just trying to get a sense of the audience here. What's your relationship to Microsoft Dynamics GP?
Give that another 5 seconds or so, and I'll close it out.
Jason, what are you seeing as the biggest bucket, just so I get a sense of who's on today?
Yeah, well, all the respondents said they are users.
Oh, okay, great. All right, so let's continue. All right. I also hope you're enjoying my Olympics theme, since the Olympics are going on right now for those of you who are fans. So let's dive into looking at your accounts payable workflow with GP alone without any type of integration with an automation solution. So describing it as paper-centric may not be something that's a surprise to you. We often see paper in all types of forms, from the actual invoice to the paper check that's being sent as a payment. This results in numerous types of risks as far as, missing invoices, not being sure where their paper is in a process. If you're going through different types of approvals and you're passing around this paper invoice for review, there's a likelihood that it could be misplaced, filed in the wrong file, just happened to miss the file and it's in the next file. Or if you're dealing with storage situations, it could be in a storage locker across town, which I actually have heard from one of our customers. Audits might be a little bit more work because there's more paper to sift through. So when an auditor is asking you for information or a copy of a record, you need to find that physical paper copy because that's how you're managing your AP. Also, you're at risk for fraud, and this has to do with the last point here as well, which is, the paper check payments that you're making to your vendors and just having check stock on hand within the company and the department available. There's also some limitations that we found with GP alone at the user role level. There's role-based access, and this may be limited or limit you, and I'm curious to see if any of you have run into the situation where you need to access some piece of GP to do your job, but you can't, and then you need to somehow identify who actually can get into that piece and ask them to do what you need to do. Also, user licenses are sometimes required for approvers, and if they're outside of finance like myself, I approve invoices or payments from the marketing team. I don't have access to actually approve them in an electronic manner. I would have to email the approval or sign something, initial something, or perhaps I'm verbally giving my approval. The workflows are inconsistent, so you have a workflow that you've defined and you would like to enforce within the company across all departments and the organization as a whole. But it's hard to enforce when there's so many ways to stray away from that workflow. If you are desiring to get an invoice into your GP system before the approval happens, you're capturing a formal approval, and then your payment is going out in that order, it doesn't always happen that way. We find a lot of people that get approvals first, and then they spend the time to enter the invoice. And it's not always a consistent workflow. Also, you have time consumed figuring out where your invoice or payment is in the process. So is your invoice with the first tier approver or the second tier approver? Is the payment sent? Was it the check cashed? There's all types of tracking within where something is in the workflow that's just not as easy. And then you may run the risk of making a late payment because your invoice is out, being tossed around at different desks, and you just have lost visibility into where your invoice is in terms of receipt capture, approvals, and actual payment scheduling related to that invoice. Another challenge we've come across when using an ERP alone, and we're talking about GP here, but we've heard it across many ERP systems, is managing your POs. A lot of companies are moving to this PO requirement just due to the fact that they could match what exactly is ordered to an invoice exactly, just to have that double check of goods bought versus what they want to pay. And there's a manual match, so you could be looking at two pieces of paper and manually just checking off line by line what's happening. Your PO could be approved and it's turning into your invoice approval. So you lose that piece of the workflow as far as segregation of duties and the approval piece. And then there's also limited traceability. So how are you actually attaching that PO to the invoice at all steps along the way? And is that easily accessible after the fact to go back and query? Your general ledger may be what you're calling GP. Usually the ERP is referred to as a general ledger. It's your one source or consolidated source of everything to do with accounts payable, accounts receivable, and in general just cash. The fragmentation is introduced because of the paper-centric nature of running AP manually, and also your lack of consistency or ability to track where something is in the process. So your payables end up not being in real time. So your cash flow reporting within GP is not necessarily accurate unless you're going out to your credit card statements or banking accounts and consolidating all the information and putting it up against, has that check cleared? Okay, no, it hasn't. So I need to account for that check, the amount of that check being removed from my total cash available. And, I made a credit card payment, but was the credit card run? Okay, it wasn't. So the credit available is not actually true because I need to account for that charge that just hasn't been processed yet. And there's really just a lot of manual reconciliation when it comes to having all of your accounts on scattered places. So you can see the last point here is what I just covered. It's just visibility into what has been scheduled and how that matches up and takes away from your cash flow. So you can see exactly what you're looking at and have an accurate real-time view of your general ledger. So Jason, let's launch our second poll question, please. So related to one of the challenges I just covered, I'm really curious to see if anyone is using purchase orders in their AP process. And if you are, I would love to hear if you have any challenges in the question pane.
All right, I'm going to close out that poll. So it was about 64% saying yes, they're using them, and 36% saying no.
Okay. All right, great. So I hope that what I was just talking about rang true with you. A lot of times, like I said, regardless of the ERP, the purchase order match to invoice is a strain on resources. It takes time. It's a lot of manual effort, and it's not very fun. Okay, so let's get into it. So we're going to look at next, how people are using GP in a more modern way to manage their accounts payable. So this really centers around introducing an automation technology that will integrate with your GP. So your ERP still remaining your system of record, it's still your main general ledger, but you're plugging in a software that's going to introduce some efficiencies and cost savings and give you access to some features that may not be available using GP alone. So the automated invoice capture is a really important item for these companies. They're getting an edge on eliminating the need to manually enter data into their system. So when invoices are coming in, they're no longer required to spend X amount of hours entering that data. They're coming in to automatically being populated in the system, and you have an alert that invoices are ready, and you can just take a quick look and make sure everything looks okay, and off it goes into the approval workflow. The line items are all extracted. Your coding is matched based upon your preset setups as far as vendors and things like that. And then everything gets pushed right into GP. So you don't have information in different systems inconsistently. The approval routing we touched upon when using your Dynamics GP instance alone may not always happen the way you intended, or it's happening in different ways at different times. So a lot of times we see approval for invoice happening before the invoice is actually entered. And then other times we see invoices are entered and then approval is processed and captured. But you really should enforce the same workflow. So your invoice is automatically coming into your system, mapping right to GP, and the approval workflows are kicking out. You also can see where your invoice is stuck. So did your approver, is it still awaiting in their inbox? Did they need some more questions about it? Did they reject it for some reason? And then also have the ability to manage these approval tiers. So instead of manually saying, Jim needs to get it if it's $5,000, and then if it's over, then, it has to go to Samantha after that. This automatically moves through all of those tiers to say, all right, Jim signed it, kick it off to Samantha, and she can sign it, and then only when that happens, it can move into the next phase. So PO match, a lot of you said you're doing purchase orders. The ones that said you are not using purchase orders, you may be thinking about it, or perhaps it just is not suitable for your business. But when you're looking at automated PO match, the invoices are matched to a PO auto-detected. So when an invoice comes in and there's a PO reference on the invoice, your system is looking to see if there's where the PO is, and it's dragging the PO in so you can look at it right against your invoice. And the line items are then matched to the PO, and you have like just a very central location to look at how they're lining up, if they match, and just approve each of the sections to make sure your PO and invoice match before you're kicking that out to your approvers. Real-time data, this is huge for anybody managing cash flow, the CFO making strategic decisions. This is vital. In one quick view, they can get a sense of their entire state of the state when it comes to their cash flow, what's available, what credit lines are in their credit cards, if there's different amounts in different bank accounts. Everything is consolidated as far as cash and credit available. And the payables in process or even planned and scheduled are taken into account to really give you that true sense of what cash is available once your payments are processed. The API integration with GP also syncs back, so your GP instance also has accurate invoices attached in there. It has updates on what payments are being executed. So everything's centralized right back to GP alone as well. And then there's really nice dashboard views just to get, like I said, accurate cash flow numbers. So I wanted to talk about a couple of companies here because I did promise that we would look at some cutting-edge companies and how they're using automation for accounts payable in conjunction with Microsoft Dynamics GP, and what they're experiencing before and what they're experiencing now related to their pains. This is a company, Hollywood Wax Museum. They're a Microsoft Dynamics GP user, and they have a few locations, and one of their pains was invoices were coming in from all of these locations. They had to consolidate them. They needed to track what invoices came from what location, if a location hadn't sent their invoice, if something was lost in the mail perhaps. They were FedExing things around. Also presented challenges with approvers if the invoice came into the headquarters but the approver was at a subsidiary location. They had to FedEx it back to approve, and then it was sent back to the headquarters to pay. Just a lot of invoices flying around. And then also just, they had so many invoices that they had to manually input into GP. And then they were processing over 1,000 payments per month manually. They used ACH for the most part, but as many of you know, or all of you who are using ACH, you need to initiate that with your bank. So it takes an extra step. It's a manual process, and doing that over 1,000 times a month is probably not very efficient as they were experiencing. So just focusing on those two main issues, and they certainly had a lot more just challenges or ways they can improve their operations within AP beyond just using GP alone. So the automated invoice capture I talked about earlier, when they're thinking about invoices from multiple locations, there's capability for you to manage multiple locations from the same instance and be able to have those invoices come into a centralized place, but at the same time keeping them associated with the location they belong to. So you're able to have your headquarters receive all the invoices, have the data automatically extracted, so no more manual data entry, and the approvers at each location are also able to sync back to do approvals by email or access on their mobile phone through their email on there. And it's a much easier way to process invoices and capture the approvals. They also, as I mentioned, we're using ACH, and to do different payment types, you usually have to go through different processes. So your credit card may require a vendor. You need to fill out a credit card authorization form or call them or email them with a credit card. ACH has to be initiated by your bank. Checks need to be printed and signed. So with GP and MinerTrade together, they could access all of these payment types from one location. They simply had to select the payment type that they want for each payment, and off it goes. No more initiating ACH with the bank, credit card, or check, and they could pay the same vendor in multiple different ways based upon their cash flow or their needs at the time. Appalachian Mountain Club, this is my second example here of a company that's really thinking about AP strategically. So they really wanted to go paperless. That was one of their big objectives. They had lots and lots of paper. This is a huge deal for them. They wanted to get this paper out of there. And a lot of that resulted or came from the fact that they had manual data entry. So these are all paper invoices and remittance details and POs and all types of things, but really circle back to the need for paper because of the data entry piece. And they also were seeing that payments were being delayed. So vendors were calling them. They weren't very happy because they weren't being paid on time. They were subjecting themselves to late payment fees. And they found the cause was mostly due to approvals. So without having that visibility into where the invoice or payment approval is and who it's with, they really just lost track of things. When you're managing hundreds of thousands of payments a month, it's easy to do when you have different payments at different stages of your workflow. So looking at how they overcame these challenges and thought about how AP automation would fit together with GP, something similar to Hollywood Wax, they really took advantage of the automated data capture from the invoices. And the API sync to GP made sure everything was copied right back into their ERP. And this really got rid of their manual data entry challenge, and also allow them to accomplish their goal of going paperless. So they now had a paperless process where invoices were being emailed directly into the system and extracted. There was no paper to be printed, and everything was captured in an electronic manner. Their approval problem was solved with the workflows. So no longer lost visibility into payments that were being delayed or had a risk of not being paid on time because of an approver. Different email reminders will go out, all in accordance with the dates that you have set. And if the need should arise, you have an easy way to quickly see what invoices and payments are waiting for approvals, who the approver is, and what the status is. If they have not looked at it, if they've rejected it, if they've approved it, or they came back and needed some question answered. Jason, do you mind launching a third poll question, please? So I'd love to know if you're managing multiple locations with GP.
All right, we'll give another 5-second warning here, and then we'll close this one down. So it's 56% yes and 38% no.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so let's look at a few of the competitive advantages of automation. And like I said at the beginning of this presentation, some of these are no surprise or will come as no surprise, and then others may be something you hadn't thought about before. So when we look up what takes up a majority of your day, we did this study in Q4 of last year, and we really wanted to set out to define what was a modern accounts payable organization. And was there any correlation between organizations that automated AP and those that did not? And we asked, what is taking up a majority of your day? And if you look at those who answered with the manual data entry as being a huge part of their day, automated AP, the people that are not automating AP have answered this 3 times as many times as those automating AP. So it's a clear benefit as far as thinking about how you could reallocate resources and your time to other things if this wasn't taking up a majority of your day. And another thing, this relates right to that first graph. We've talked to lots of companies that have projects or initiatives that need to get done. But because there's so much time being consumed by manual accounts payable processing, reconciliation, reporting, they're just not getting the proper attention. So you can see here that those automating are saying that, no, everything's getting proper attention. Manual AP was twice as many that said their projects were not getting the correct attention that was needed. There's cross-functional skill development. If you think about taking away the time that you're doing or dedicating right now to entering invoices or making payments, you now have time that's free and can be reallocated to another project that might be outside the scope of AP. And a lot of companies try to envision what that would look like, and they take the approach in all different manners. This one company, the Community Food Bank of Eastern Oklahoma, they really wanted to allow the accounts payable manager to put one foot in the AR bucket and one foot in AP. And by reducing the manual work associated with entering invoices and making payments, she was able to do that. So allowing the payables to run in an automated fashion, she was really allowing herself the time to focus on the money coming into the business and make sure their receivables were being received. Cash rebates, automation solutions will allow you to earn rebates. And this is simply because you are opening yourself up to the ability to pay with cards. And this is even if you don't have a physical card. You have this ability to have a virtual card that's initiated on your behalf and is sent to your vendor. And what happens is you get a check every quarter for the rebate on top of the payment. So you're technically getting paid to make your payments, which is a huge benefit for a lot of companies. Accurate cash flow reporting, we talked about a lot in this presentation as far as the challenges associated with accurate cash flow and reconciliation when using a JP or your ERP alone versus thinking about an automation solution that's consolidating all of your accounts and really reporting back on an accurate cash flow. You're also able to allow your CFO, controller, anyone involved in the financial strategy of your company to really think about the finances as far as what the goals are. I know that break-even points are a huge goal for a lot of companies. Cash flow positive, I've heard a number of times. And overall, just the management of payables. Is payables being managed as well as it could be? Growth, so lots and lots of companies we talk to are on this fast-paced growth trajectory. And I put on here it's the chicken and the egg because it really is. You know, your company is growing and you don't have the people yet. But you don't want to hire lots of people before you grow. So it's a good problem to have, but you need to make sure you're still making your payments. So when your invoice volume is now doubling and then tripling, but your AP team has remained the same, you need to find or introduce some more efficiencies or ways to really combat that growth and make sure that you're keeping pace with the company. And it really, taking away the manual process alone has made a huge impact just related to this one competitive advantage. Accessibility by any device. You know, GP is an on-premise solution, and you have your payables accessible through your web browser on your mobile, tablet, or phone. You're able to not be able to miss a beat. We had a customer, and there's a video on our site that she was about to get on a plane to go to vacation, and there was a payment that had to be made. So she quickly just pulled up her phone and accessed the payment, shot it off to the approver, and sent the payment out, and everything was done before her flight took off. And it was just a lifesaver. Also, a lot of times where your approvers are holding you up is because they're really not chained to their desk. So they're traveling, they may be on vacation, it's, you know, after hours or whatever the situation may be, and they're able to approve just on the go. It's very, very easy for them. I think we have just one final poll question, Jason, before Sarah will jump in here and show you how this all works.
And we have a few people still responding. We will close this one down again in about 5 seconds.
Okay.
And I can tell you that, well, almost all of the answers are coming in either the 250 to 500 or above 500 range right now.
Okay.
Few in the lower ranges, but not as many.
Yeah, so it sounds like a majority of this audience, if you're using GP alone, you know, this is certainly an opportunity for you to bring in those efficiencies as far as removing the need to manually enter data from your invoices, and also just make sure that you're following that workflow with approvals and capturing everything in a paperless manner. All right. So I'm going to pass it off to my colleague, Sarah. She's going to walk us through a demonstration of how this all works with GP. All right, Sarah?
Sarah, I'm just going to open your phone line, please.
Hello.
Hey, we can hear you now.
Can everybody hear me? Yes? Okay. I can hear myself, but I don't know if you guys can. So,
We can.
thank you, Christina, for doing that presentation. It was wonderful. You did a good job kind of discussing what people's pain was before AP automation and how it's so much better afterwards. My name is Sierra. I'm one of the account executives here at Mineral Tree. And every day I have the pleasure of meeting so many different CFOs and controllers and discussing what their AP process currently looks like and what they're looking to accomplish with a tool like Mineral Tree. We are the first people to acknowledge that accounts payable is the last place that you guys want to be spending more time than you need to when it comes to just paying your bills, and that's why a solution like Mineral Tree exists. Not because we think AP is so great, but because we believe that you should spend as little time as possible behind it. So that's why our system is consistently ranked as one of the most easiest to use, and also just a very transparent, easy setup thing to get in place so that you guys don't have to handle your AP manually anymore. So I'll go ahead and do the demo. I'll use my GP company to do this demo, but I also wanted to add, in addition to having support for GP, we also support a number of different accounting systems, including NetSuite, Intact, QuickBooks, and we're adding 9 to that list. So as your business continues to grow, and if your needs outgrow GP, you can certainly keep on using Mineral Tree. We're not going anywhere. So I'm just going to log in, and the first role that I'm going to go through is our accounting manager role, and it just kind of goes through, it just kind of, whoever's the person at your company who is creating the batches of bills in GP and sending them out for approvals manually, that will be their role. And then afterwards, I'll go through the payment approval role, which is typically a CFO or CEO who's kind of getting all the bills at the last minute, when they're ready to be paid, they've been approved, and releasing payments that need to go out. So accounting manager first, let me just log in. First thing you'll see when I log in is this drop-down that says please select the company you want to access. This shows that we have really wonderful multi-entity support for our accounting packages. With one username and one password, you can easily log into any of your different company files and manage the APs, because we build a Mineral Tree company that mirrors the different company files you have set up. So there's no reason to have to do a different process for your accounts payable, and there's no extra fees for this, so you don't have to worry about having a very high extra implementation cost just because you have a number of different QuickBooks files, or GP files. So let me just choose my GP company right here. And what you'll see is your general ledger cash that's going to be syncing over in real time from GP, and then your Amex. If you have any credit cards, we love people who like to pay their bills with credit cards, and if you don't pay your bills with credit cards, we will certainly help you get there. It's basically a way to get paid back for paying your bills, because you'll get rebates on them, and there's so many different vendors that you can pay with credit cards that don't charge any fees. So you're missing out on that 2% on that $100,000 payment you're making, which obviously is substantial. So regardless of how you're paying your vendors, though, we can do check, ACH, card, and wire support for your bill payments. Whatever you use, let us know, and we'll get you set up. So log in, see your different accounts, and then see your aging graph right here. As you can see, I have a bunch of bills that are 90+ days overdue, and that's because this is our demo system and nobody ever pays bills, and one of us needs to delete them, but there's $57,000 of bills that we haven't paid, so it's more of a project to delete these bills than it should be. But whenever you guys get new bills, and either coming in via mail or coming in from GP or emailed in, they'll be centralized in Mineral Tree, and that is because of our two-way sync. It's a constant two-way sync with GP, so whenever you guys post bills in GP, they're going to show up here. But the same way, if you guys get bills in Mineral Tree, email to Mineral Tree instead, which you should be, because we're going to be setting up an email address to receive the bills, they'll just come to the inbox right here, which I'll click on and show you, and overnight we will put them through a capture process to read the data off of it and make sure it's correct, and then create a bill out of it. So all bills will come to Mineral Tree first for the most part, unless you guys have some recurring bills in GP that just get created on the first of the month. And the reason for this is to make sure that every single bill that we receive is a real bill and is properly approved and touched by the right parties before it ever gets posted into GP. When you're ready, you can easily post batches of bills from Mineral Tree into GP and then post that batch. But as you guys know, it's very difficult to delete a posted bill, or you can't edit a bill that's been posted in GP, so you have to delete it. So using Mineral Tree is a great way to avoid those kind of situations because you can get everything kind of electronically signed off on before it hits your accounting package. So send the bills into our system first, and then you'll click on Invoices right here the next morning to see all the bills that we've captured. So you can see the vendor name, the amounts remaining, the number of documents tied, and the approval status. So if a bill has not been sent out yet for approval, if you don't have an approval workflow built out yet, then it'll just show gray until you do send it out for approval, and then it'll turn into yellow, which means that it's waiting. Green means it's approved, and red would mean it's rejected. And when we send the approvers the bills, we don't send them emails for each bill asking them to approve it. We'll just do kind of a daily digest so they know what bills are outstanding, and they actually don't even need to log into Mineral Tree to approve bills. They can do it right from that email. They just click on a link. It brings them to the screen that is waiting for them to approve the specific bill, or they can see the document and sign off on it accordingly. And you can certainly build different workflows, as Christina mentioned, for the bills based on GL account or vendor name or whatever coding you might be using, so that when a bill is coded a specific way, we know that it goes to the Director of Marketing and then the CMO, etc. So let's just look at this bill that we captured and see what's going on with it. Click on the invoice number, and you can see the PDF of the bill right here. And if you need to pop it out, you certainly can. You can just click full view and then it pops it out onto another screen so that you can kind of put it on one monitor and then look at all the information that we've picked up off the bill. And the best part is that if you have lots of bills with multiple line items on them, we're going to save you as much time as possible by breaking up the line items one by one. The only thing that's left for you to do is to just choose the GL account that you want this bill coded to, or choose the account type, whatever it might be. For certain vendors that usually get coded the same way, you don't have to actually even do this step. You can default it by vendor so that when we get a bill from Staples that gets coded to the Staples account, you can just let us know in the system that you want these bills coded a certain way so you don't have to select it every time. So for some of your bills, you might even have an easier time getting them coded and approved. So you'll be able to monitor the coding right here as mentioned. And if you don't have a specific workflow built out for a specific vendor or for a specific bill, that's fine. You can come down here easily under Invoice Approval Routing and then type in the name of whoever and have them approve the bill right from here. So if somebody's out of office, for example, and you want to override the regular approval rules because Andrew is gone for 2 weeks, you can certainly do that from here, and you can monitor that invoice approval history from here, and it'll show you kind of where this bill has been, and the notes will be here as well. So as mentioned, with every bill that you guys receive, you will be able to keep track electronically of the lifetime of it, and you'll actually be able to post it from Mineral Tree to GP when you're ready. And you can either do it one by one just by clicking the box right here and hitting save, or you can do a batch just by coming back to the invoices screen right here and then choosing this batch button, which will select all the bills that are in draft mode, which means it hasn't been posted into GP, and creating that batch. It's up to you. This will select everything, which I'm not going to do right now. So that's just kind of what we just looked at. It's just kind of a straightforward bill with Staples bill with expenses. Pretty easy. I know that 60% of you guys that are on this webinar are using POs in your current process. So if you're wondering how we can help with those, let me show you that right here. Because of the integration that we have with your accounting package, we actually are able to bring over your POs from GP into Mineral Tree, and we can do this with NetSuite as well, so that when we get a bill that resembles a PO that you guys currently have in GP, we're able to kind of flag that and tell you there's a PO that's mismatched or matched to this bill. So that way, you guys can easily use the matching in our system, match the bill to the PO in our system, and it's a lot easier to do partial billing and kind of keep everything in one place instead of having to go to different places and kind of bill things one by one. So what we'll do is we'll capture the bill the same way we always do, and this little toggle box right here will actually allow you to see the PO in GP. So you'll just click PO, and it shows you the PO, and what you're able to do is just come right down here, and you'll see the information that we captured off the bill as items, of course, and you'll just select the PO that you want to match it to, because you can certainly match a bill to multiple POs. It's not a problem at all. And then you can just enter the line number and hit link, and then it brings the coding from that PO that's in GP to that line item on the bill that we just received. So this will be done for you, and it'll be super, super easy to do, and you can build workflows around the bills that are tied to POs as well. So if it's approved, typically bills don't require additional review, but if it's not matching the bill the PO that's in GP, then you can make it so that it's required to go to purchasing or whatever people so that they can sign off on it and figure out why it's not matching. So I'm sure you guys are probably doing somewhat of a process like this right now, but it's most likely manual because this is a very new technology that we have. So make it a lot easier on yourselves and make it a lot easier to find things by setting up the electronic matching with a solution like Mineral Tree. And then when you're ready, you can easily hit post to Microsoft Dynamics GP and then hit save, and that's going to partially bill that PO. So super simple to do. This will also make it significantly easier to do that partial billing as well. If you guys have blanket POs and you have PO for like $12,000 and you need to bill $1,000 because your vendor obviously doesn't care what your POs look like, they're going to bill you how they want. So this will make it easier to do that as well. One more feature that I forgot to mention that's very important is that we do have unlimited document storage. So when you're ready to kind of, at the end of the month, look for all the PDFs of your bills and see kind of what's going on, or if you have an audit, it's super simple to come into our search tab right here and find all your documents in one place. There's an advanced search feature as well so that you can search by invoice number or vendor or date or amount, whatever you need, and find those documents in one place. So if you have a filing cabinet in your office with a bunch of invoices, you can get rid of it and never look at it again. So I guess the next step after you match your POs and you make sure all your bills are properly approved and posted into GP would be to get ready to pay them. So if I'm an accounting manager and I'm ready to pay some bills, what I'm probably going to do is use our advanced search and filter based on approved bills, or you know what I mean, maybe even do in the next 30 days, or if I want to do it by more than that, like received POs or default payment type equals credit card, if I want to do that. It doesn't matter. Just filter accordingly, and then I'll hit search, and it'll show me all the bills that have been approved by my colleagues, and then I can click the boxes right here that allows me to queue up a batch, and then I can also schedule those payments as well. So if I want these bills to go out immediately upon my CFO signing off, then I can leave it as not set. But if I want them to go out, let's say the last day of the month, but I'm not going to be here, go ahead and do that. And then edit the amount here as well if you'd like to as well. If you have vendors that allow you to pay partial payments, not a problem. Edit, and then hit confirm. And then as you can see, based on the vendor, we will automatically default the payment type that you have set up for this vendor, so you don't have to select it every time. But if something changes, then you can easily change it right here. So if you usually pay this vendor with your American Express card, but you want to pay them with a check this time, that's fine. Just do that, and you can also add notes for this vendor. So please pay ASAP. Sorry, for the payment for your payment approver to see. And these are internal notes, so you can say whatever you want right here, and you don't have to worry about the vendor seeing it. You can even say we're gonna get rid of this vendor, and they would never know. So hit save, and now when I hit submit, my CFO is getting a notification letting them know that to log into Mineral Tree and approve the payments. And that's just one example. If you can have different tiers of approval for payment approvers as well. If you want to have it go to a CFO and then a CEO, etc., that's fine. You just let us know, and we will get that all set up for you and show you how you can edit it accordingly if you need to. You can do it by amount, especially. That's what I see people use the most. So before I talk so much and run us over our time, let me just do one more thing right here in this application and just show you we have so many different reports, and this is something that's so well received by our clients. Being able to run a bill detail report or a bill payment report and have all this information at the tip of your fingertips in just seconds has been a game changer. And you can download into a CSV and see it much more detail, or even like for audits, invoice approval request by user, invoice approval rules, everything you can think of is here. And we also do custom reports that are no additional charge. It's just a matter of putting in a support ticket. We will help. So let me go ahead and log out and go to my payment approver role and show you what it's like for a CFO to approve payments. Like I mentioned, when you queue up batches of payments to CFOs, they're going to get an email letting them know, okay, CFO, approve this payment, approve it. But if for some reason they still are ignoring those emails and your payments are getting close to the due date, you don't have to worry, because we're going to let them know, like, payments are approaching due date, please approve. And you can configure these email settings if somebody doesn't like getting that many emails so that they don't get overwhelmed. But if they appreciate the updates, then you can make it so they'll take it all of them. So let me log in. So this is my payment approver role. Super similar to the accounting manager role. The main difference is just this wheel right here that shows what's awaiting approval, what's on hold, and what's scheduled. So if I need to approve payments, what I'll do is click View My Payments right here, and I will click, I could click Approve All and have all of this sent out just like that if I wanted to. And once I do that, everything gets updated in GP for me. So you don't have to do any more work, and your accounting manager gets the notification. Or if I want to get into some more detail about these payments, not a problem at all. Just click on the vendor name. You can see recent payments that were made to the vendor, who submitted it, the date, payment type. If there's a document tied to it, they'll be able to see this, so they don't have to reach out to that poor accounting manager and say, like, go dig up this document. It'll be right here. They can hover over here and see the invoice approval status and the coding. So everything that they could possibly need is at their fingertips, and there's no reason that you guys should ever have to deal with late payments ever again, or like fraudulent payments or duplicate payments, because Mineral Tree is the perfect solution to avoid that. So when you're ready to send out those payments, like I said, hit Proceed to Confirmation and Submit, or if there's something wrong, you can hit Reject and then hit Submit or put a reason, and that way the accounting manager will know, like, this payment was rejected or postponed for XYZ reason. Let me keep an eye on that. So that's pretty much it for the CFO role. We try to keep it as simple and easy as possible, because these are very busy people that don't want to focus on AP but still want to have control over what's going out. And that's why Mineral Tree is a great system. As you can see, it's much more user-friendly than probably what you're dealing with in GP in terms of accounts payable. So that's pretty much it for the demo. I guess what's next? Do we have any questions that I can help answer? Let's see. Christina?
So, yeah, we can take some questions now. A few have come in, but I would invite anyone who hasn't put their questions in yet to enter them now. The first one that came in was, how does your cloud solution integrate with on-prem GP?
So that's a good question. We use a system add-on with GP called eConnect, and it is a free just tool that you can download with your IT guys, and then once you download eConnect, we just use a few codes that eConnect generates to connect Mineral Tree to GP. So that initial sync probably takes around 30 minutes to actually conduct, and then we let that sync take place overnight. You just have to keep keep it open for that initial 30 minutes, and then you can close out, and we'll let the two systems sync up overnight, and then moving forward, you'll have a constant two-way sync using Mineral Tree and eConnect. There's a whole graphic and kind of step-by-step tutorial on how Mineral Tree works with eConnect that I can share with whoever needs to review. that gets into all the technical details, but it is fairly simple.
Great. For the next one here. What are, or can you, I'm just trying to paraphrase here, can you cite any specific cost savings?
Certainly. So when it comes, there's two parts of our product, the invoice capture and workflows, and then there's the payment actual execution and the payment approvals. So when it comes to invoice capture and workflows, the time saved not having to key in bills, especially when you have a significant amount, is a true savings in itself, because you are taking that 60% of whatever time you're spending on AP, just keying in bills, and totally eliminating it, and you're turning a data entry process into just a review process. So I'm sure that's obvious as a time savings equals cost savings, how Mineral Tree will benefit you. But even in terms of hard savings, our check service is $1 and some change per check. It is minimal. And when you think about the cost of a check on itself with the stamp included, it's at least getting towards over $1 because every party involved. So that is a hard savings. And then even when you think about payment approvers times, like a CFO, an executive officer who's spending time looking at documentation, looking at checks and manually sending things out and signing them, or even if you're just printing them, you still have that executive officer reviewing things manually, which is naturally more time consuming. All those factors are things that play into AP taking more time than it needs to, and Mineral Tree knows that AP is not something that should be taking time, and I'm sure you guys all know that it shouldn't be taking more time than it needs to. So that is exactly how Mineral Tree helps cut down on costs. We'll do a full analysis if you decide to request a demo after this on how Mineral Tree saves time with our value calculator and help you make the business case for AP.
I have one more question in the queue right now, so if anyone else is holding on to anything, now's the time to ask it. And here's that last question. Will our files and data be safe in Mineral Tree?
Yes, you will be able to find we're cloud-based, and we use AWS servers on the East and West Coast to store everything. So you will have unlimited document storage for all your PDFs and all your images of your checks in our solution that you can access from anywhere you need to and download at any time.
Okay, great. Well, that concludes the questions for now. I think we can begin wrapping up. Christina, Sarah, thank you both so much for presenting today. Any final words?
Thank you very much. This is wonderful.
Yeah, Jason, thank you very much. And for those of you who want to just learn a bit more or see how this works, we have an online chat tool on our website. So if you want to visit mineraltree.com, you can just have a quick chat with one of our AP specialists and get your questions answered. But thank you all for your time today, and I hope you got something out of the presentation.
Thanks, Christina, and that concludes today's event. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.